Okay, so today I just want to make a quick video about escorts. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, in the modeling world this refers to bringing another person to the photo shoot with the idea that it will keep you safe from anything that might happen. This usually is used within the freelance world in shoots that are just model and photographer and don't include an entire team for the production. So it's just the model and photographer, no makeup artist, no hairstylist, no designer on board, and models being uncomfortable with meeting an unknown photographer in what may possibly be a private location if working in a home studio or a studio, want to bring somebody along to make sure that they are safe. In concept, it sounds good. Here are the problems. Firstly, if you don't feel safe, there are really two possible reasons. Either you have genuine red flags going off, in which case you shouldn't be going at all to this shoot. Regardless of how much they're paying you or how much you like their images, if you are getting genuine red flags, bringing another person into the situation just puts two people in danger instead of one. Secondly, you might feel unsafe because you're new and don't know how the industry works yet. If that's the case, there are some things that you need to understand. Firstly, a better way to stay safe is to check references. I highly recommend watching my video on the topic. Second, as I said, bringing an escort doesn't help keep you safe. It just puts two people in danger. Third, you're going to have to get used to shooting with photographers one-on-one if you want to succeed as a professional freelance model. There is no way around this. While many photographers may allow escorts, more do not, and for genuine reasons. A photographer refusing to let you allow an escort is not a red flag. It does not mean that they are sketchy or unsafe. Many photographers have had bad experiences with escorts, including theft, or distraction of the model, or a jealous boyfriend, or even a jealous friend getting angry and upset and ruining the shoot, screaming at the model, fill in the blanks. Even a parent can be known for berating the model, adding negative input. So much can go wrong. And if you aren't used to modeling with people around, you might be more nervous than you think having somebody you know watching you pose. So an escort can definitely be a distraction, and they can be a liability for the photographer, even if your escort doesn't steal anything. There's a potential that they could damage or break expensive equipment. Photography equipment is often very expensive and very fragile, and your escort, however well-meaning, could trip over cords, could knock down a light stand. There's any number of things that could go wrong, and having that extra person around adds one more liability to the set. One more person to fill up the space and make it so that everybody has a higher chance of knocking into something. So, escorts don't help keep you safe. They're not at all the most reliable way to stay safe in this industry. That would be checking references. If you're getting red flags, don't work with the photographer. Turn the shoot down. And please understand that a photographer not wanting you to bring a reference does not mean that they have any intention of harming you. It simply means that they don't want the extra distraction and or liability on their set. If you're still uncomfortable shooting in a situation like that, I suggest a couple of things. First, you can start dipping your toes in at group shoots. I don't typically recommend group shoots, but if you're nervous about working with male photographers, that's a good place to start. There will be lots of models and photographers around. Second, you could schedule shoots either in a studio that will have the studio owners present or in a public location. This doesn't help with people who are wary of posing nude without an escort. Posing nude in a public location is typically not recommended, but the studio option could help you in that case. Vet the studio owners. Make sure they'll be present. It's still, you're going to run into a likelihood of insulting a photographer. If you don't fully trust them not to harm you, what are you doing posing nude for them? That's something you really need to think about. And it's often more indicative of something that you need to work through than of something the photographer needs to do. Because again, if those genuine red flags are coming up, you shouldn't be considering the shoot at all. If you're not getting red flags but are still uncomfortable just because you'll be nude with a male photographer, that's something you need to consider and see if you're really cut out to be doing this. I know it can be nervous the first few times, but you need to be able to trust your clients if you're going to create art with them. Because art does require a certain degree of vulnerability, of being willing to show emotions, to create the art that you want to bring to life. So seriously, think about it. If you really aren't comfortable with the situation, maybe you're going too fast, maybe you're trying to dive into something that you shouldn't be doing yet. Maybe you aren't ready. And that's okay. But don't put that burden on the photographers. You need to own it. Full disclosure, my first few photo shoots, I insisted on an escort. The first person who canceled because of it, I threw a hissy fit. I told my whole family how unprofessional he was and that he must have obviously been planning something and had ulterior motives. I didn't understand the issue the way I do now. So I'm not coming at this from a perspective of somebody who's never felt a need for an escort. I've been there. I was the new model who demanded that I have my escort present and brought them to many shoots and then realized that there are genuine reasons for photographers not wanting them present and that they can often be distractions, especially for a new model who doesn't know how to handle herself with people watching. It gets easier as you get more experienced to model with an escort present. It actually gets a little, but it really does. Once you have more experience, you'll be better at posing with other people watching. So when a team becomes involved, when there's a makeup artist or a designer watching you, you won't be quite as nervous if you've already got some experience under your belt. A good analogy if you're still struggling with this idea of not bringing an escort. A lot of people ask me why I wouldn't recommend that a model, typically a woman, so that a woman, why I wouldn't recommend that she bring somebody so that she's not just working one-on-one with a male. Here's the thing. This is a work environment. And before you say that it's an atypical work environment, because often these women are going to work with men one-on-one at their homes in a home studio. Think about other jobs that do that, and they do exist. House cleaners, typically female, do not demand that they be able to bring escorts to their clients' houses. And they do clean houses for single men, and they do that while they are present. Not all the time, but it does happen. Masseuses who do house calls, same thing. They work with men. That they may be the only two people in that house. They don't insist on bringing an escort. There are parallels, and this is an issue of professionalism. So before you insist on bringing that escort, consider these other professions. Consider how ridiculous it would be to bring someone along if you had one of those jobs. If you aren't able to view your modeling as a job, if you still feel the need to bring an escort, again, I'm going to repeat, take some steps to try and be more comfortable without one. And if that's a sticking point for you, please be aware that modeling is more likely going to need to remain a hobby. It is very difficult to become a professional model who supports herself off of modeling if you insist on an escort. And by very difficult, I mean I've yet to see a full-time professional who brings one to all shoots and insists on one. There are always exceptions. There are times even now when I bring my partner to a shoot if a photographer has requested that I help bring an assistant if I have one available. You can always have somebody drive you and wait at a nearby cafe. You can have them drive you and meet the photographer and then leave. The issue is typically with having somebody present at the shoot. They can sit in the car out front, usually. And you can always, if you have to, send a quick call or text when you get there, send a quick call or text when you leave if you want to check in with someone. There are things you can do to help become more used to modeling without an escort. But again, if you want to succeed long term, you want to start becoming used to the idea of working without one. That's my 2 cents on the topic. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them. I'm definitely interested in what you think about the topic. How do you feel about escorts? If you're a photographer, do you allow them or don't you? If you're a model, do you insist on one? Has this changed your mind? Are you still going to insist on one? I'm very interested in your input. If there's something that you were confused about or that I didn't cover properly, please, this is an important issue. Feel free to leave a comment or message me directly if you'd like the conversation to be private. As always, please subscribe to my channel if this has helped and you'd like more updates on how to become a model or run the business side of your modeling career. I'm posting daily for the month of February. I'll see you in the next video.